So, Chapter 21, The Accident of Nature. We, all of us, had to go down to the police station, of course, where they took a bunch of pictures of the bruises on my neck, and then they insisted I needed x-rays, so we had to go over to the hospital and get that done, and then go back to the police station again, which wore on my nerves almost as much as being kidnapped. Grim, the second time we go to the cops, he's sitting there in this room with me waiting, and he says, "I can't tell you what it felt like, coming up out of the basement and seeing that double track of footprints in the snow. I knew it was him. I just knew it in my heart." He kept insisting that Graham go home, which she finally did, because we were there at the police station for hours more, me telling all about it over and over until I thought I would faint dead away if just one more person asked me what happened after I woke up in the dark and was stolen from my own bed. Grim, he just keeps patting me on the arm and saying, "This is important, Max. Maybe this time they'll lock him up for good." That's what everybody keeps saying, that this time they've got Killer Kane where they want him, in violation of parole, in violation of a restraining order, abduction of a minor, 2 counts of attempted murder, me, and the heroic biker babe, which is what the papers took to calling Loretta Lee. The heroic biker babe, I like it. The word is she's hurt pretty bad because he cracked a bone in her neck, but she'll be okay in the long run. Iggy, when I saw him that time in the hospital waiting, he was chewing a hole right through his beard, he was so worried, and it made me think he wasn't such a bad dude after all. It all goes to show, like Grimm says, that you can't always judge a book by the cover. It turns out to be a pretty weird Christmas on vacation. A pretty weird Christmas vacation. As you might imagine, Graham keeps fussing at me and won't let me sleep in the cellar. I don't care if he is under lock and key, she says. Grim, he says, please humor the woman. Grim, he says, please humor the woman. She's worried about to death, so I sleep upstairs on the fold-out, and at night, Gran keeps checking to see if I'm there, which is a pain. But she can't help herself, and anyhow, I'm just as glad to not be alone down in the down under. Freak, well, the fair Gwen has just about threw a fit when she got home because of him disobeying a direct order and sneaking away to rescue me. But after a while she calms down, and all she does is just look at him and shake her head. "What am I going to do with you?" she asked. "Put me up for adoption," he says. "I want to go live with the Waltons." He means the TV show that keeps repeating, and of course he's teasing her, but the fair Gwen is not amused. The Waltons was this really old TV show that had like this perfect family that was all sweet and everything was perfect. "No more crazy adventures or dangerous quests, young man. You have to be careful," she keeps saying, "extra careful." She means the trouble he has sometimes catching his breath because of the way his insides keep growing faster than his outsides, which hasn't really grown at all. Freak goes into the medical research place every few months now, which he says is a real pain, not that it actually hurts. Dr. Spivak says my unique status as a marvel of genetic aberration makes me an object of intense curiosity, he says in that lofty way of his. Specialists from the world over are familiar with my case. "What about the secret operation?" I ask, when the fair Gwen can't hear us. "The one where you'll get a robot body." Freak gets this cool scientific look on his face, and he always says the same thing. "The bionic research continues, my friend. The work goes on." I don't know why I keep asking, because it gives me the creeps. You'd think I could be as cool as Freak about the idea, because it's him that's going to get a new bionic body, but just thinking about it makes me want to jump up and run around. I keep telling Graham that when Freak is in the hospital for his test, I shouldn't have to go to school, because it's like we're a team. But she won't buy it. "I know Kevin has been a great help to you," she says, "but you've got a brain of your own, haven't you, dear?" Yeah, right. The other thing about school that's different after Christmas vacation is how jealous everybody is that we got our pictures in the paper and on the local TV. Mrs. Donnelly in English calls us the dynamic duo, and she put a cutout picture from the paper up on the bulletin board. Wouldn't you know, some goons put mustaches on us on the very first day. Freak says he looks cool with a mustache and he can't wait to grow one, and he makes Mrs. Donnelly leave the picture up. Me, I'd just as soon forget about the whole thing. I really hate the idea of having to testify at the trial and tell what really happened, but everybody says I have to if I want him locked up for the rest of his life, which I do, especially after what he tried to do to poor Loretta, who was only trying to help. They can't make you if you don't want to, Freak says. A son doesn't have to testify against his father. Grim thinks it will do me good, plus he's really worried he'll get off again or fool the jury by quoting from the Bible. Grim worries too much, Freak says. Everybody worries too much. The way it finally turns out with Killer Kane, Freak is right, because just before the trial is supposed to start, I've got my fingernails chewed down to the second knuckle. Grim gets this telephone call that makes him punch the fist in the air and go, "Yes, yes." What happened? They made a deal, and Killer Kane pled guilty, which means he has to serve out the rest of his original sentence, plus 10 more years. He'll be an old man when he gets out, Grim says. He'll be older than me. That should make me happy, but instead I feel really weird and worried, and Grim, who still thinks he knows everything, says I just have to get used to the idea. The man is an accident of nature, he says. All you got from him is your looks and your size. You've got your mother's heart, and that's what counts. The weird thing is I keep thinking about, what if something happens when I get older and I turn out to be another accident of nature? Grim sees me thinking about that one night just before bed, and he sits on the end of the fold-out and he says, "Things will make a lot more sense when you finish growing up, Maxwell. Now sleep tight and don't let the bed bugs bite." Grim means well. I know that, but sometimes he says the dumbest things, because it's growing up that worries me. Why is he worried about growing up?